someone starts saying something, and you start talking about something that someone else wants to leap into, that's perfectly fine. However, what you do is say yes and. That's a positive way to say yes and I'm including something with it. So for example, if you want to talk about, two different versions of RNC or whatever it is, whoever wants to fill in is just going to say yes and that gives that person now 30 seconds to wrap up whatever it is they were going to say so that they can finish their thought and then move on to that next interruption. And please, if you are going to interrupt someone, keep it to a minute or less because everyone will have their turn. So you all have 5 minutes. Say whatever the hell you want, and then if you want to step in, then you've got about a minute. So you give someone the ability to finish their thought, and then you have a minute to step in if you want to qualify something. So basically, we're gonna let you know when your time is up, and that's how that works. I don't know, Mr. Greene is going to do a little bit of an introduction for all of the speakers, and then we'll get started. I'm sorry, I forgot to introduce the famous Mr. Michael Greene, Mr. BikeBlogNYC, Myrtle resource from BikeBlogNYC.
Okay, so our panelists are in chronological order of events, not their ages. We didn't dare guess anyone's age and put them in that category. To my left is Bill. Paola, he's the executive director of Time's Up. Time's Up celebrated its 25-year anniversary. Last year, they have been providing the New York cycling community with free events, education, bike repair workshops. Very involved with recently creating energy bikes to help with the Sandy relief efforts in Occupy Sandy. They also were instrumental in starting speaking of history, a history museum in the Lower East Side, in the East Village, called Morris, the Museum of Reclaimed Urban Space. And they have 2 locations, one in Manhattan, at 80 Snow Rio, and one in Brooklyn, in Williamsburg on north south. Then we have Chris Kim. Chris Kim has been involved in the bike scene for a long time. He's a former messenger. He really spearheaded a lot of alley cat races, really giving them themes, sort of spearheading things like this 5-borough generals, which was like a stage race with an alley cat race in each borough. And also running midnight Curated racing. He currently works making vegan food for Monk Meats. Is that correct? Monk's Meats. This is Taliah Lempert. She is most known for paintings of bicycles. Her work can be found at bicyclepaintings.com. She got into the cycling scene since '96, and recently may have also seen her work in. She was commissioned by the DOT Urban Arts Initiative and did artwork on this barrier beautification program on Flushing. Yeah. And her work was sort of repeated, like bike down Flushing to see her work on the streets. This is Helen Ho. Helen currently works for Recycle Bicycle as the developmental director. She got involved with transportation alternatives as the Queens volunteer and helped organize the Tour de Queens. She also started the all-volunteer group, which is currently called Bicycle Public Project, and formerly known as POW, which is People on Wheels.
Yeah. I mean, it's written in the lawsuits. We have to change it.
the People on Wheels How is more creative, but now it's Bicycle Public Project.
It's BikingPublicProject.org.
Next we have Stanek. Ken is a bike culture organizer. He has created a lot of really creative events, bike polo tournaments, alley cat races. He also runs a bicycle short film festival where people submit their shorts and they're screened and people vote on it, and the winner at the end of the night gets $100. So, he is also currently running a really great charity event, Cranksgiving, where people, it's an alley cat race where people collect food at checkpoints and all the food is donated to the needy people and hungry people for around Thanksgiving.
I think Chris has something to say about that.
Thanksgiving is an amazing event that has been copied around the world.
Yeah, that I think this is like, I'll get to it, but
Yes, not
not
just
from like 46.
next we have Steve Vaccaro. Steve has been biking in New York City since 1979. He got involved in the bike scene in 2006, thank you. Sorry. Steve Steve's an attorney for Vaccaro and White, covering pedestrian and cyclist crashes, personal injury cases. He is also organizer of Streets PAC, which is a political action committee representing cyclists and for more livable streets in New York City with a livable streets agenda. Then we have Dmitry Gudkov. He is the driving force behind a really great website. He's a photographer. The website is gudphoto.com/BikeNYC. He sort of took on the hashtag BikeNYC, which became really popular on Twitter. He does portraits of everyday cyclists on the street, and recently has a really great portrait and got to meet our DOT Commissioner, Janet Sadi-Khan.
Well, what I briefly want to do is I want to acknowledge the people who are here, both in the audience as well as people who could not be here. Our main timeline was really provided by Time's Up as well as Transportation Alternatives. They are celebrating their anniversaries this year, the 40th for TA and the 25th for Time's Up. And one of the reasons for doing a People's History is because all of this was created by not just, organizations, but individuals. There are individuals in the audience who have had a tremendous impact. I'm looking at them right now. Ashira, Hodari, Mike D, you guys are amazing. We've got Kurt, our messenger poet over there. These are all the people who've made New York City a better place to be. We've got people from all corners. And so I just want to thank everybody for being here. And with that, I'd like to start with Bill.
Okay, I guess everybody knows a little about
Thank you, Nona.
Thank you.
So I started Time's Up 25 years ago. So biking 25 years ago, it's hard to even let people know who are biking today, what it was like. So I could just say for everything that you do, whether you vote or you just do anything, breathe air, someone fought for those rights. In New York City, a lot of people got arrested for your right to ride a bike, and a lot of lawyers stepped up to defend us. At one point, I think around 2005, there was over 100 lawyers, standing up to defend the bicycle community, and there was all kinds of media outlets that came on by. So I'm just going to name a few different dates of things. I started Time's Up in 1987 in pretty much the Lower East Side. A lot of the activists kind of came from the Lower East Side. I'm actually a squatter. The squatters were all activists. I started a history museum last year to try to talk about squats and gardens, bicycling. I don't know much about history, but actually led a tour this morning into squats and into gardens. I feel it's really important that people really focus on history, but then we can get more activists and more things in the future. So 1987, Times Up started. In 1991, how many people know Steve Stolman? And how
is Steve?
Yeah, he had this.
He's still angry.
He had this place on Houston Street that was amazing. It was like twice the size of this, and he would let us use this storefront on 49 East Houston Street in the middle of Manhattan. The messengers used to meet there. Times Up would be there. He helped us start the pedicab business there. So many things this guy Steve Stolman did. His organization was called Light Wheels. I think you know Steve Stolman for how long? Forever, right? Yeah. So he believed that not only could it be bicycles, could it be light transportation or hybrid. So he, with Times Up, we went to auto shows and we got hybrid vehicles in there and things like that. That was 1991. In 1994, how many people know George Bliss? So another visionary, George Bliss, Steve Stolman, myself, Peter Meisler, so many people who lived in East Village got together and we had these meetings and we were like, holy crap, we got to get brooms and we got to clean off the Williamsburg Bridge. There's so much glass. So we'd have to go out at night and clean off the Williamsburg Bridge, which had stairs up to it. And then we got to talking about all the bicyclists had the same complaint. The number one complaint of the bicycle community was it was not safe. And there wasn't enough bicyclists on the street to really push the city. So we came up with ideas, I'm going to get to that, to create more bicycling. But George Bliss came up with this idea that bicyclists shouldn't just be bicyclists. There should be cargo bikes. There should be ways to move stuff around with human-powered transportation. He built a lot of these bicycles himself at this place called the Hub Station on, well, there's so many hub stations, but I think the one that was the most innovative was on 3rd Street, right next to the Hells Angels. I don't know if anybody landed there, but that's where the pedicab started. The Times Up volunteers helped out start the pedicab business in 1984. There was 8 original pedicabs. They went on to like 3 years. We test market up to 20. Now there's probably over 500, 1,000, and there's a lot of green jobs out there. But you know, obviously, the people writing the pedicabs didn't know they were all started by environmentalists and bike advocates. Later on, 1995, Times Up continued working with a lot of loosely organized people to do these fun bike rides, not these faraway bike rides. Bike rides, instead of going to bars, you go on a moonlight ride at night, you go on a naked ride, which happened the other day. So these fun, stupid bike rides that got people together for the first time. The idea is getting people on these group bike rides for the first time. They would borrow their friend's bike, then they would buy their own bike. So we continued for years with these group bike rides, trying to encourage more people to ride their bike. Then along came the critical mass from California. I went over there, I met with this guy, Chris Carlson. It just didn't work out. TA tried to get the critical mass going. Times Up tried, didn't really work out. The California people said, you gotta make it fun. You gotta make it like a moving circus. So we added music, we added sound bikes, we added after events. It became really big, the critical mass in New York City. On a typical ride, when it was going good, there might be over 100 new cyclists riding for the first time. It was really safe, they were riding in a group. Later on, obviously, the critical mass had a lot of problems with the cops. At one point, we were looking at it like, is the critical mass going to create enough bicyclists, or is the city going to stop it? And it was like a race to go on with the critical mass, because so many people were getting arrested, there was so much harassment. Even the messenger community, other bike riders were being kind of challenged, other organizations were told not to come on the ride. But I think it was really successful. I know right now, people say, oh, the critical mass is not very good, but it did what it had to do. It got more bikes on the street. Later on, those bikers demanded rights, which they have today. One more date is 1996. Charlie Komanoff, who was one of the speakers here, teamed up with him, and he knew a lot about infrastructure and about statistics and about greenways. And he was saying, don't just get more bikes on the street, let's get those bikes to push for greenways, bike lanes. And so he worked with that, we worked with TA on that as well, and we came up with this memorial stanchion project. So sometimes you get results by embarrassing the city. you know, it's accidental in the beginning, but you shoot it on video, and you're like, oh my God, that cop just hit that guy. The video's going around the world in Times Square. We're gonna get a lot of bike lanes out of that. So when somebody gets hit by a car, it's sad, we do a memorial, but that's what the city responds to. So Charlie Komanoff and Times Up helped create the memorial project in 1996, and it's still going on today with the white ghost bikes that you might see everywhere. Then one more date is, I'm just gonna do the early stuff. The Republican National Convention was called the BNC. We did a month-long campaign to just get more people on bikes. Steve Stoneman again lent out his whole space, like $1 million space on Houston Street, and hundreds of bikes were built using recycled parts, and this whole idea of using bikes, recycling them, getting people on and giving away. The medics had bikes, the lawyers had bikes. They were feeding people all over the city during the Republican National Convention with bikes. Then we kept the bike co-op going. The bike co-op that comes up started and Recycle a Bike is doing all the time. It's now going on in schools. It's going on everywhere, empowering people how to fix their own bicycles. And that was kind of really got going around 2004. And that's about it. I'm just going to do the other stuff.
Okay, thank you very much.